for me to stand up here and talk about sex is really, really easy for me. But I'm not going to actually do that today. And so I know, it's so sad, eh? Maybe next time. So for me to actually talk about me is very scary. I'm going to risk and be vulnerable. So I'm terrified in this moment. Can everybody breathe with me? Okay, now that's over. Let's get to the good stuff. All right. So Jackie really wanted me to tell you a little bit of a sexy, juicy story. So I'll start with that, and then we'll get into fear. So when I was about 14 or 15 years old, my mother took me to this women's gathering, and I thought, this is so not cool. What is wrong with all these wild, crazy feminist women? I'm like, where are the boys? So I was hiding from all these weird women, and I'm in the basement, and I'm reading this book. And this woman walks in her late 60s, early 70s, and she says, "No, hello, I've never had an orgasm." Now, a typical 14, 15-year-old girl would be like, why are you telling me this? But I wasn't. I was like, that was the saddest, in that moment, in the life that I had lived up to 14 or 15, that was the saddest moment I'd ever heard. So I put my book down and I went over to her and she started talking and crying and she said, "It's too late for me." I said, "It's never too late." And I proceeded to teach her how to masturbate to orgasm. Woo! And that changed my life forever. It was like that was the moment that the universe decided, oh, I guess she's decided that this is what she's going to do. She finally said yes to this. So I couldn't go anywhere without people talking to me about sex. And when I mean anywhere, I would be at the bus stop and some dude would start talking about his penis problems to me. And I hadn't even told him what my name was yet, right? So that's a little bit about how I ended up being a sexual wellness coach. So let's get into the stuff about this real story that I want to share with you today. Actually, let's all have a moment and breathe and do a Kegel. And relax. So I was having this, we're going to talk about vaginas now, actually. So I was having some personal vagina issues, and the doctors and the medical professions couldn't figure out what was going on. So 2 weeks before this event happens, I was saying to myself, I'll do anything to fix my vagina, right? If I have to go to the jungle or climb a mountain and rub myself in yak poop, so be it. Whatever it's going to take to fix my vagina, right? So 2 weeks later, a girlfriend of mine goes to me, she's like, "I'm going to the Amazon jungle, you want to come?" I'm going to hang out with some shamans. And I'm like, oh, I should really watch what I ask for. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the Amazon jungle, see if I can fix my vagina. So as I'm about ready to go on this plane, this epic adventure, and I'm terrified. You know, like I'm going off into the jungle. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And a girlfriend of mine hands me this book called "Can You Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways?" And I thought, well, this is appropriate. So I start reading the book on the airplane, and I get into the Amazon, and my girlfriend meets me there, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in the Amazon jungle. I'm like, here I go into the jungle, and I'm reading the book, and there's lots of other wonderful stories about that. But fear, I've never been so afraid of in my life, for my life, because there's more things in a square foot radius that can actually kill me than anywhere else in the world, maybe other than Australia. And I'm living in, we can't even call it a hut, because a hut would have walls, right? This doesn't have walls. It has like a thatched roof, 4 posts. My bed's on a piece of wood that's above this much from the ground, with some mosquito netting over it. And I'm in the jungle. And the jungle floor is alive and moving. And that's where I'm sleeping every night. So I read the book, and I'm all like, and the big thing that I took away from this book was, our biggest fear is that we cannot handle whatever it is that life presents us. So all of our fears come back to this thing. And so I'm sitting in the compound with everybody else that's there, and I'm like, I finally figured it out. I figured it out. I've conquered my fear, right? And they're like, oh, really? Let's see if that's true. So they're all a bunch of jerks, and they all start talking about, because they actually are staying in the compound that have walls. And they start talking about, well, watch out for those tarantulas. And, have you seen, the other day so-and-so saw an anaconda over by your hut. And so I'm like, you bunch of jerks. As I walk into the jungle, it's pitch black. All I have is this little headlamp. And at this point, I'm like, I think I'm about 9 days into my 16 days of in the jungle. And I'd learned that I'd have to sing to the jungle so the animals would know I was coming, right? So I'd be walking down the jungle, I'm like, I'm coming in, everybody go separate ways. I won't scare you, you don't scare me, right? So I make it to my tent, or not tent, that has walls, right? So I make it to my shack, and there's no hydro. So I have a candle. I put the candle in the center of my little hut, and I light it, and wouldn't you know, there happens to be a tarantula, because they said there would be. So of course there's going to be, right? So there's a tarantula on my mosquito netting, and I have to get into my mosquito netting, which is now my safe zone. You see how our perceptions change real quick, what is safe, walls versus mosquito netting, right? And I have to figure out, how am I going to convince this tarantula to get off my mosquito netting? So I'm like, hey, little tarantula, I'm good, you're good, I'm okay, I know I'm living in your habitat, but could you not be near my bed? And I go get a stick, and so I pick up the stick, and as I'm talking to it, the tarantula seems to be getting more aggressive. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, come on, little tarantula. And part of this experience was, remember, I had said I conquered fear. I finished the book, right? I can handle anything. Let's see how we do that. So I start talking to the tarantula. It's getting more aggressive, and I'm like, okay, wait. And my heart's pounding. It's just pounding, pounding. And it's like, okay, if it bite me, I bet you that'll really hurt. However, I've been in pain before. I can handle that, right? And then it jumps down, and I'm starting to move away, and it's kind of coming after me, and I'm chasing, it's kind of chasing me, and I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, I'm dead. Well, I'm dead, it doesn't really matter. So I think I can handle that, right? And in that moment, I was like, I braced myself, I stopped, and I was like, okay, I can handle anything. And I swear to God, that tarantula was laughing at me, and as soon as I came to that, he just walked away. So I'm like, okay, tarantula, handled that. Yay me, I've conquered fear. So I get into my mosquito net, of course, check, make sure there's no more other tarantulas visiting. And I fall asleep. And I start dreaming, and I'm dreaming, and next thing you know, I wake up and the ground is moving. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the anaconda. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Worst case scenario, it wraps itself around me. I bet you that would really hurt. But I've been in pain. I'll be okay. I'll scream. Someone will hear me. Well, they'll either rescue me, or it'll eat me and I'm dead, and it doesn't matter because I can handle that. So I, end up passing out after, my heart's pounding. Then I hear the whole jungle's moving again. I wake up again, right? And this time it's this Ursula they've been talking about, the wildcat, right? It's the size of a jaguar. I'm like, okay. Worst case scenario, it eats me. I'm dead. I can handle that. So for me, what I learned from that experience was, I woke up the next morning, I'm like, yeah, that's right, I did conquer fear last night. And what I learned was, there's a difference between perceived fear, which is our minds of what we think is going to happen, and we're afraid, yet our body creates this adrenaline, right, and fight or flight, versus what could actually eat you or kill you. And so I came back out of the jungle, and that was a beautiful gift for me, because every time I sat in front of the computer or I risked something, I was like, okay, wait, is this going to eat me? No. So you don't actually have to be afraid of it.